My first encounter with a scammer was unexpected. I had never heard of romance scams, and this was going back to 2015 when this occurred. I was on a website where you could play games like online bingo, cards, board games, and you could play by yourself or you could join what was called the group game rooms. At the time, I was recovering from major back surgery, so I was going to be off from work for about 6 months. This left me home and bored. I had a healthcare nurse come in once in the morning and in the evening, but otherwise I was pretty much on my own. I at the time lived in Texas. I was single and I'd gotten out of a bad relationship a few years prior, mostly due to my health issues. I decided to put dating on the back burner until I could get myself better physically. I was 46 at the time of my surgery. Needless to say, being home watching TV, movies, and recovering was hard. I had physical therapy and doctor appointments, but other than that, I sat in my apartment. All of it got boring fast, and I found myself playing more and more games online. I love this game site. I joined the group bingo and cardboard game rooms. These rooms had private chat boxes and group chats where you could click on someone's username and chat in private. I met the man who called himself David on a bingo group chat. He was always on late at night, which was when I was on. Pain from surgery and being a night owl, I found myself on the site late at night. He introduced himself in the private chat and said he liked my profile logo, which I guess would be equivalent to a profile picture. It was a picture of me, but the photo was a few years old. He said he was a widow. He was retiring from the Navy soon. He said he was on a ship and passed the time playing games online when he wasn't on active duty. He said he was a single father with a daughter named Emily who was 8 years old. He said his daughter stayed with a nanny while he was deployed. I never had kids, but always wanted to be a mother. He had asked for my email address, and I gave it to him so we could stay in touch. He said he wasn't always on the game site, and it's totally random where you can chat with people on the game site. It didn't have an add friends feature like social media, so unless you join the same group game in the same room every time, you may not see that person ever again. I hope that makes sense. And I enjoyed chatting with him, so I gave him my email. He sent me a very, very long email the next day, telling me about his wife, how she had died, how he took care of his daughter, and he managed to take care of his wife until she died and stayed in the Navy at the same time. He travels all over where he's deployed, and he said he was deployed currently off the coast of Somalia, and he sent me some pictures of himself and of his ship that he said he was on. I told him about my surgery and was honest about some of my health issues. I walked with a cane and would be doing so for at least another 5 to 6 months, depending on my physical therapy. He was sweet. He told me he would love to take care of me if he was there, cook for me, and always asked if I'd eaten. He asked if I had an app called Viber on my phone. At the time I had a very basic phone, an Android, and I'd never really heard of Viber. He walked me through how to download it through the Play Store, and we began chatting there. I tried to video call him on the app several times, but due to his location, he said he couldn't connect. We started off as a friendship, and he was attentive. We started long conversations on the app late at night. I shared photos of myself, my apartment, my health stuff, everything. He told me he was searching for a wife and he hoped to find his soulmate. Well, I wasn't looking for that, but over time I began feeling more attracted to him and his personality. We chatted via Viber for months, and he was always wishing me well in my recovery, but as time went on, he asked how can I not be working and survive financially. I told him I had savings. I lived off of that and paid my rent ahead of time to anticipate the surgery. Actually, I had cashed out some of my 401k to afford being off work this long. I had worked in a warehouse as an order picker-packer and supervisor. It was a very physically hard job, which is partly why I needed the surgery. While I didn't make tons of money, I had good insurance, good savings, and good pay. I was careful with my money and saved up knowing I needed this surgery. But he kept questioning me on how I paid my bills. I thought he was thinking maybe I had a boyfriend and he was paying my bills or something. I never imagined that he would be a scammer. I thought maybe he was just a jealous guy. He would keep asking again and again, what credit cards do I have? My bank info, where did I bank? Did I do online banking? I told him no. Finally, one night, he said his military paycheck didn't go through as there was a glitch with the system, and he asked if I'd be able to accept his check from the military payment officer in Florida. The only thing I told David is I had Chase Bank, but I didn't tell him any of my information as far as my account number, passwords, or anything like that. And it was true, I didn't do online banking. I did drive up ATM and deposits, and went into the bank. Me being naive, I told him I would help him this one time. I didn't know now what possessed me to do this, I guess because he wasn't asking me for money, and he never had. But he asked me to deposit a check. He asked for my address, which I gave it to him. About a week later, I received a priority envelope in the mail with a printed check in my name. The memo on the check said Naval Base Pay for Commander David Jones. It was a check for almost $5,000 and some change. I asked David what he needed me to do with this, and he said deposit it and transfer the money through a bank transfer to his naval base docking agent. David said he was going to be stationed in Malaysia for 4 days before coming home. He said he could have the money when he arrived in Malaysia and collect it there from the agent. I told him I'd have to go to the bank on the day that I go to physical therapy as I'm unable to drive until I'm healed. He kept insisting I deposit the check via ATM, as he knew by this point, again, I banked with Chase. I told him no, and he became mad, stating I just had to do this at an ATM check deposit, then just use my money that I already had in the bank to transfer the cash that was the amount on the check. Then when the check processes, I would have that money back that I gave, if that makes sense. I told him okay, I'll do an ATM deposit. I had my caregiver come and drive me to physical therapy, stop at the store, and then at the bank. All the way there I was telling her about him and how we met in this game chat room. I then mentioned the check and she turned a little pale. She asked to look at the check and looked at it, told me the check is fake. I asked her how she knew, and she started to educate me about online scams and check fraud, how the check numbers are off and more. She showed me how they were crooked. I had no earthly idea, and the return address on the envelope was a post office box. We then went to the bank and spoke to a supervisor about the check, and they confirmed it was a fake, and if I had just deposited this through the ATM deposit, it would have likely gone through, and in 10 to 12 days, they would have caught the fraudulent check. By then, my money would have been withdrawn and gone, and I would have been out of my savings and any fees, as David wanted that check deposited and withdrawn the same day. When I returned home, my caregiver checked out his photos and emails. She told me it's a scam, and I need to stop talking to him right away. I got a hard and fast education in online scammers. I removed the Viber app from my phone, and I've never seen him on the game site. Since that day, I've been able to pull myself into a lot of anti-scam pages and channels online. I now spend some free time baiting these monsters and giving them false hope that I'll send money. If it wasn't for my caregiver way back then, I likely would have been another statistic. Thanks for letting me share, and yeah, scammers are in all places, not just dating and social media. They're in the game rooms too. Be careful. We'd like to thank this lady for sharing her story. If you have an encounter you had with a scammer, whether it be an encounter you had yesterday or an encounter you had 5 years ago, feel free to share it with us. You can find us on Facebook under the page Scamming Scammers Action, or drop us an email, scammingscammers@gmail.com. Give us a few days to verify your story, narrate it into a video. Your story may help others. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.